cool. This was a pizza place, it looks like.
Yeah, first off, it was a Human Bean coffee shop. They built it, and
Okay.
then it
Oh,
turned
yeah,
into,
it looks like it.
yeah, yep. And then it turned into a pizza place, and then the owners changed, but the pizza place stayed. And then just prior to 2020, it was sold. It was shut down or closed, and then resold. And then I started leasing it from the new landlord in 21. She bought it in like March. I got it in April, and then we opened up in June. So of
Cool.
21.
Sounds like serendipity.
Yeah, it was really fun. I don't know. It's just 300 square foot building on a half-acre lot with 11 parking spots. I'm like, this is something we could probably afford, just coming right out the gate, because, we don't come from any sort of like legacy money, big investor
Right.
money, anything like
Right.
that. So, I mean, it's just us. And
The American
I was
dream.
like, we could run catering out of this and, just have a good time. And didn't take much to repair. We didn't have to tear down walls or put in plumbing or do anything. We just had to.
And was there like stainless equipment in there already, or?
Yeah, so part of the lease, I gained all the equipment, pizza ovens and, whatever. And it was already a kitchen, so it was to code. So there was none of that work that had to happen. And so, I was able to liquidate whatever was on the inside and bring in what I wanted. Just the neat thing is that I've got the biggest cooker is outside of the kitchen. I don't have this big pizza oven on the inside taking up a lot of space. The big thing that's cooking all of our meat is on the outside. So we just don't really need a lot of square footage indoors for that. And so, on the inside, basically, we're just prepping all the food and seasoning all the meats, and then either holding it hot or holding it cold. And,
is that it?
Yeah, that's it. It's parked out beside it, and it's kind of neat because as you drive through on one side and get your order, you drive by that too, and it's just part of the fun experience.
That's cool.
This is what your food's coming off of.
That's awesome. Let me introduce you real quick. Good morning, everybody. We've got Tim here, Neighbor Tim from Neighbor Tim's Barbecue.
Good morning.
Which I happened upon this week with an Ambrose Bridge Parents Dinner. We all met up at the Warehouse Food Hall in Boise, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted, and they had lobster rolls, and they had poke bowls and all this, but I saw Tim's spot, and I went, oh my gosh, I got to go try me some barbecue, and it was phenomenal. I mean, I hate to sound hyperbolic and say it's the best I've ever had, but really, it's quite possibly the best barbecue I've ever had. It's certainly better than anything I can make. So I reached out to Tim and said, hey, man, I'd love to talk to you online and kind of spread the word about your business and see if we can. I think you're already doing great, but if I can bring you a couple more people, that's kind of what I'd like to do.
So we'll take whatever we can do. It's just part of promoting, and it's just really interesting coming to have food with us. It's directly putting groceries on the table for the 4 kids that I have. There's just such a neat tie to money in, money out. It's going to Costco and we buy groceries and then we feed our family, and it's just very tight that way versus kind of a corporate investor structure where everybody's getting their end. But
you're making food to buy your own food, basically,
right.
Like the circle of life. That's interesting. So tell me, Tim, how did you get into barbecue? Like, I read some stuff about you online, and it was all super interesting, but it sounded like you were making dinner at your house, and it was so good that people started coming over, something like that?
Yeah, well, so basically, I grew up, I was born and raised in South Dakota, and, just kind of having that upbringing of living in a town of 500, we had cattle, we had row crops, corn, wheat, oats, whatever. It was just kind of an upbringing of we grew our food or we shot our food. So, family supper was something where we made more than just the dinner. We actually made the product. We raised the cow, we grew the corn, we, have the tomatoes in the garden. And that's where our food came from. And so I ended up in my 20s, I moved to Huntington Beach, and I just kind of had a good time for about 10 years there. I worked. I always worked. I always had a number of jobs, but I never really had like a passion of something other than just kind of, being a wild guy. And then I moved to Santa Barbara for my 30s, and I met my fiance, now wife, and now we have 4 kids. And I started to grow up, and I was always in the event industry, weddings and stuff like that, trade shows and whatever. Um, and I don't know, I got into food, and I was always watching the caterers at these large events or the small ones, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I started having these barbecues on my house, and I
Did
was
you already
I had
barbecue?
these triathletes for neighbors, and then I had a chef for a neighbor, I had a pastry chef for a neighbor, and we had these frat boys as neighbors. And so every Sunday, we just got together on the front porch of my place, and I did all the meats and stuff, and everybody brought stuff. And it got to the point where we didn't even ask about it. Like, what just was going to happen. The lights were on, come on in. And so that happened for about 3 years. 10 people, 40 people, 50 people, 30. It just kind of didn't, it just,
And
kind of just
were people
grew.
just eating on the grass? Like you just had to put a
No,
table
I
in?
had kind of a big wood porch patio type of
You could
thing.
put 50
And
people on your porch?
what's that?
You could put 50 people on your porch?
Yeah, then there was like a backyard and stuff. It was just always
Oh,
kind
wow.
of some big, like, hoopla. And I don't know, it was just fun. And then I just thought, well, maybe we could turn this into something. So I joined this like really small, it wasn't really anything fancy, barbecue competition thing, and I put this name to it, and I ended up winning it. I won one of those big green eggs, and some
Oh,
cash.
cool.
And so that was cool. But I realized at that point I liked what I did. I liked what I did there, but I really wasn't into like competing or getting the trophy or compete. I've never been like that where it's just not about me. I don't want to make it about me winning. I want it to be about good food going out, and that's what it's always been. And um, so I started working on a food trailer, and I wanted to get more catering work. And I was like, food trailer, I don't see us making a lot of money.
Right.
But I knew a food trailer going out would produce, birthday party events, anniversary events, weddings, whatever. And so I used that food trailer as kind of like a billboard to feed and get the word out. And lo and behold, events came in, and I was really excited to do this like 500 person, catering event. It was going to be our first like really big job. And then we got that, and now we do those all the time. So, it was just really funny. Um, and I met my girlfriend for the first night, and I was like, "Oh, you should come on over to because I couldn't leave because I was cooking for my church the next day. That was like my very first job was 300 people, pulled pork, coleslaw, and so I had to stay up all night and do that. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'll come over." So our first like blind date was at my house, and I had to make all this food, and so
You put
lo and
her to
behold,
work?
now we're married with 4 kids, and so obviously she's just been with me this whole time, and it's just really been fun growing it. And the food trailer had come into town. We went to go pick it up and drove it in, and a couple of weeks later we got married, and then I had my our honeymoon, and then she went back to work, and I went back to work. I had a full-time job, and then 8:15 in the morning I was let go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the first the first day after my honeymoon, I was let go. And so I went to her preschool and said, hey, meet me out in the parking lot. And she thought, oh, he's probably bringing me a coffee, first day of marriage, how sweet. I'm like, actually, no,
I lost my job.
I lost a job, and
Oh,
well, what
no.
are we gonna do? And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna kick ass at this food trailer thing, and focus in on that. And so then that week she moved into the house, which was cool because now we had her salary for rent, and then I had some unemployment come in, and I had like 6 months to get this really like going.
And what year was that? What year was that?
16 or 17, something like that.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Maybe it was 15. We were married in 16. And so the food trailer launched, and we got catering work, and we just did the best we can on a hope and a prayer. And I'm telling you, every time we ever came into, a financial situation, it's always been discovered and handled. I bought that smoker that you showed earlier.
Yeah.
I had 15 grand in the bank. It cost 12 and a half. We drove to Texas and came back with it. I'm like, well, now we don't have any money. So we have like enough cash.
We're going to put meat on this thing.
Have our rent. And, lo and behold, about 3 weeks later, we got a job for 700 people twice a day for 3 days straight. And it's like, it's just interesting how we've grown and instances that have happened that have just accelerated the growth to it. And so then what did we do next? We just kept banging it out, having more kids and doing more work. And then there was this guy, and then the COVID thing happened, and our style of catering was very buffet style, very staffed and served and things like that. And so I just knew with the whole COVID situation that wasn't coming back. And if it was going to come back, it would be in a couple years, and it wouldn't be as flourishing as it was. And so, her uncle was the tennis coach up here at BSU, Greg Patton. And so they had a second home for us to land in if we couldn't find something. And, so I thought, well, Boise, Idaho is big enough. There's 500, 600,000 inside this valley. Santa Barbara, where we were, was like 90,000 plus tourism, though tourism was way down.
Right.
And so, and you can't really build catering on tourism. So I was like, well, let's just give this a go. And so I sold it real hard, man. That was a tough sale because she's third generation Santa Barbara. And so, so it was a little on the difficult conversations with your wife at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
But we agreed to do it. We came in the winter, which probably wasn't the best idea because she's never really been through a winter. South Dakota winters compared to Boise, Idaho winters are no comparison. I mean, it is pretty much tropical here in
totally
respects to that. So it wasn't that big a deal to me. But then it's like we got up here, and what were we going to do? We got here in November, and we didn't open that thing until June, and I didn't even find it till April. So it was just 6 months.
What'd you do in the interim?
I looked at restaurants. I looked at catering. I looked at just trying to do a ghost kitchen type of thing. I didn't think the food trailer thing was going to work out just because it's seasonal up here, and so. It was a lot of touch and go. Like, what are we going to do? I mean, we came up here with a talent, with a plan, but how did we weren't acclimated at all. Yeah. And so, but I just sucked down as much coffee as possible and just got to work and, made my connections and just tried to dig deep into it, and make it happen. And so lo and behold, we found this thing, and it's just been, sorry, I've got a guy coming in here real quick. Hold on 1 second. I'll come see you. And so we started this with just the heart, to serve others, getting back to growing up with food we grew or food we shot. That's what I wanted to bring here. I wanted to bring in product that it's regional, but not make a big stink of it. I don't claim to be farm to fork. I don't claim to be all organic. I don't claim to be non-GMO, blah, blah, blah. I just, that doesn't sound dinner party to me. That doesn't sound porch barbecue to me. Like, when have you ever had a porch barbecue and come on over to my non-GMO product? Like, that just doesn't, I don't like that. I don't like that talk. And, and so I just try to make all the things that we can from scratch. We found a ranch in town that produces cattle, so we get it directly off of Idaho Ranch, directly from them. Like, I get it from Seth. I get it from his 5,000 head, He delivers 44 cattle to the processor every week, which is how many can fit on a semi. And then we buy all the briskets off of him. And it's just been a good partnership to get beef directly from the rancher. And people wonder why it's so good. And then I tell them, well, the cool thing is we're getting this directly off of Idaho Ranch versus that being on the intro. I like to welcome guests in, and then once they've experienced it, then explain to them what it is that makes it so special.
Right.
And I get a lot of flack for that because it's like, oh, you need to promote that. I'm like, I know I do, but I just don't. I don't want to turn into the non-GMO guy.
Because then it becomes a gimmick.
It is, I just think that's what food is, and it really, the first ingredient to everything though is just serving the guest. Just making sure that the place is clean, because you clean your house before you have guests. You typically buy the best product you can when you're having a guest come over, and I just try to keep it on that servant-hearted team, and I'm just floored at the group of team members we have that are just so focused on serving. It's not so much if a guest drops a fork, oh, would you like a new one? It's, here you go, here's a new fork for you. Just skip the step and serve them. And that's really what our first ingredient is the hospitality and just serving the guest, because
even if you have the best product you could possibly have, if you're not serving people well, then they're going to go, yeah, it was good, but they treated me like crap. I'm not going to go back.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not necessarily just good customer service. It's genuinely caring about who you're serving. We have, like, where's this food going today? Oh, my dad loves ribs and we're celebrating his life today. You came here for ribs to celebrate your dad? Like, that just hits me. Oh, we're from England. We want to try barbecue. Oh, cool. Some people come in hangry about 2:30 in the afternoon. That's like the hangry hour. They haven't had breakfast or lunch, and they're a little touch and go. So it's just, we're in tune to our guests, and some of them are, I haven't seen my daughter in 4 years, and I get to see her tonight, and the whole family is together, and it's like,
and you're bringing me to
the yeah. I'm not physically there, but our product is there, and just on and on the stories we have, and I feel like at the drive-through, you're welcome to buy a person, not the voice box to order your food, and then you're kind of stuck talking to me while they're making the food, and so I just love interacting with a guest and seeing what's going on. Like, they might have just moved here, or maybe they're moving away, or maybe somebody moved away, or it's just really interesting or they're new. They're just, and it's just really interesting the stories people have. And I think the solitude of 2 years of COVID, they're really open now, because they've spent 2 years kind of with their mouth shut. And now they're really in a celebratory mood. They're excited to share what's going on in their life. I mean, that's just really been the fun part of it. And then being able to provide them, something that has been smoked through our smoker, right? Potatoes peeled, cheese shredded, carrot shredded. People wonder why our coleslaw is so good, because it comes in as a head cabbage, it's not a sack of, stuff.
It's divine. It's divine. So people know I had brisket. I had a little bit of pulled pork. Both of them were absolutely phenomenal. But the accoutrement, the sides I got were coleslaw and potato salad. And they were, I don't even know, they complemented each other so well. And the potato salad was like something my German grandma would have made. It was so good. Put a little mustard on there, and I used the Carolina.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Carolina Gold. Yeah.
It's like a mustard-based barbecue sauce. My buddy got some too, and they were sitting there just laughing at the end, like, I'm so full, but I could eat another plate just because it was so tasty. It was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, and it's just fun. We get these Texan people coming in, and it just takes them right back home. They're like, wow, we haven't had this since we lived da 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 da, or went back for whatever. And it just really warms us up when we can bring that experience back to somebody that it took them somewhere that was good. And like I say, it's just fun to be a part of all these anniversaries and parties or corporate events or whatever. And we don't even know a lot of it. I mean, I try to find out everything I can, but there's so much that goes on. And we had a guy from England come in on Sunday. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna miss you guys," and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, we fly home tomorrow." So it's just he had to get one last barbecue in.
Have you been to England?
I've been there a couple times, yeah.
And the food there, you'll probably agree, is not wonderful. So
compared to what you can get here, right?
Right. So he's probably thinking, "Oh, this food is so delicious that I've got to go home and have, whatever they have, whatever bland food they have there, coming from the delicious food that you were making for them."
Yeah. So, but we're having a good time, and so then we got this one open in June of 21, and then the downtown warehouse. I read an article about that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wouldn't have to really do a lot of work to make that happen. I didn't have to do any of the contracting, the permitting, the licensing, the design. It was a food hall. They built the whole thing. I just kind of had to come in with my equipment on wheels and get going. And so we helped with the design of it and the overall look, if you will. But the landlord there really did a great job with everything, and it did take a lot of investment into infrastructure on my side to get something open, which is key when you don't have any money.
Yeah, totally. It's a really cool concept, the food hall concept. We had one. It's funny. I should back up, because one of the things that I really enjoyed about meeting you is that we instantly had conversation, and then I believe you asked me where I was from or how long I'd been here or if I was traveling. And then we got to the fact that we both lived in Huntington.
Yeah.
And I don't know how old you are. How old are you, if you mind?
Well, 42.
Okay, and I'm 46. So you were there during your 20s, and I certainly was there during my 20s. And so we were there kind of at the same time.
We were probably at Gallagher's together.
Yeah, we might have been there. We might have bumped into each other or something. Or Fred's, or Hurricanes, or Malarkey, or not Malarkey's was in Newport.
There was a guy that came downtown with a TK Burger shirt on. It blew my mind.
Oh, man, TK Burger.
Yeah.
Man, you're taking me back now. TK Burger was so good. That's the kind. Yeah, now I forgot what I was, but totally, it was so cool to talk to someone who, we meet a lot of Californians here. We meet a lot here in Southwest Idaho. If you're watching and you don't know where we are, Southwest Idaho. So a lot of people have moved here from California and from other states, but California, and you meet people, and it's cool because they're from your state, so they kind of get you. Yeah. But it's really cool to meet people who lived in the same place that you did, right? I mean, they lived streets from each other. Probably were in the same places at the same time many times.
Well, what's funny too is when people from South Dakota come in, because we're not that far away from it,
Right.
And when they come in, I'm like, oh, we're probably related, somehow. We know somebody of somebody for sure.
Right. What would give it away? What would tell you that someone was from South Dakota that came in? What's the giveaway when they come up and they order?
Oh, I mean, it's either just the logo they would wear, a particular, restaurant, if you will, a college shirt, South Dakota State, or, there's always something that clues me in. But I always ask, like, where are you coming from? Where's your neighborhood? Where are you from? And, people are always open to say, what state they're from. And that's mostly downtown, because downtown is very travel oriented. It's
Right.
a lot of, everybody's coming in and coming out. They're for a conference. There's, a ranch show, whatever it is. So downtown is very just conference and college oriented and that type of thing. But that concept has really served us well, just to get service to more guests. We have twice as many guests downtown as we do as our first one.
Okay.
But our first one buys twice as much, and then the other one buys half as much. So they're about even keel. But downtown is very single order, lunch oriented, type of stuff.
How long did that take?
The double drive-through is very supper, family dinners.
Get a big family meal, take it home.
Yeah.
Right.
It's nothing for someone to buy like 6 racks of ribs at one crack at our first store.
Right.
But that would never happen downtown.
Right.
So
because then they would pretty much be sitting there at the table eating 6 racks of ribs.
It's grab and go, large stuff, or it's sit down, type of orders. And so I met the guy that was the leasing agent for the warehouse. Over the phone, we talked and emailed and whatever. And lo and behold, I came out of the first location, and I served this guy with his 3 boys. And I gave him his food, and I said, here's this, that, and the other. Glad you're here. He's like, oh, and by the way, I'm Mark with landlord, And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I'm so glad you didn't let me know who you were before the experience. You experienced one of our cashiers, you got the food, you tried the food. I came in afterwards, and it was just all natural to him, and so and that was kind of them sniffing us out, how are we going to perform inside their place. And so so it was just kind of a fun interaction in that respect. And I knew I really wanted to move forward with that because of the relationship that was being built before we, moved in. And so, but this location here where I'm at, it's been two years this month, and then downtown will be 1 year next month. And so we're just really excited about that.
How long did it take you to get to the numbers that you're doing at the food hall? Did people right away go, oh my gosh, this is awesome?
Yeah, well, the food hall, the thing is about the food hall is it's just busy. There's just a lot of people, and there's a lot of things going on. The Steelhead hockey thing across the street, the conference, the Boise Center is across the street. We're on the main drag. Plus we're just in a really good center location where there's 2 or 3 parking garages right by us too. You know what I mean? So there's just a good spot for that. And so it took off like a rocket ship, and then it plateaued, and then it dipped a little bit through the winter, and then it took off again, and so it's just interesting to see how that is going to play out. I think that place down there will always be successful just because of the amount of activity. There's always activity. There's always something going on. Except for I don't know, the holidays where people go to the mountains and barbecue and camp, then it's kind of dead. I don't imagine, 4th of July to be that busy down there, because who's going downtown on 4th of July? People are doing stuff in their backyard. People are going to the mountains. People are going wherever. But I do expect my first store to be really busy because everybody's gathering at the home, and everybody brings something. And so that's kind of that scenario. And whatnot. But so we're just having a good time with it. And I have barbecue sauces that we make. And so the future holds is trying to get that bottled and put into retail and get that as gift packs, or getting it into grocery stores and stuff like that.
Are all the sauces that I ate, you make those?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah, we make all of that, and then I have some producers in line that can make it for us and package it correctly, so that it's barcoded and labeled and sent to sent to distributors and grocery stores and stuff like that. So
let's talk barbecue a little bit. I'm not real good at it. I have a smoker, and I've kind of not done great with. I've made a couple of briskets, and they were good,
yeah.
but nothing like what you make. Were you barbecuing prior? Was this something you did in your 20s? Like you got really good at it? Or?
I was always somebody that did all the cooking. You know, when you go to like an event or a party or a house party, I was always kind of the one putting the food together. And I turned to barbecue because I found that you can cook more with less people. You know, I could make more food with barbecue than I could pasta or tacos or burgers. So when I had these porch events at my house, I'm like, we're gonna barbecue because I can put more meat on the thing to serve more people than just all this work of burgers or just tacos or just, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, if I can just put on 15-pound hunks of meat and let it go, and maybe that might take 10 hours, but it really is less work, and you get to fuck with it.
Because you're not sitting there for 10 hours. You're not looking at it for 10 hours.
Right. And so you just get to enjoy that cooking process longer. And I was like, I really like doing barbecue because you can serve more as a single person making it versus getting all these people together. You know, you try to do 1,000 pounds of hamburgers, you can't do that as one man. You try to do 1,000 pounds of brisket, well, get the pits, light them up, and go. It's just going to take longer with one man. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And then, you know, I fell into the whole like Franklin barbecue, you know, and that was kind of firing off at the time. And I just loved his concept of like keeping it very, very simple. It's salt, it's pepper, it's quality beef, it's clean smoke, none of the white choo-choo train billowing stuff. And he talked about the flow of it going through the cooker, and just like airflow has to be there. And you need that cooker to be clean, because then you're just cooking with grease. If it's full of grease, your grease is cooking the food, right? And so I just loved I just was soaking all that up, you know. And I just love that concept of having so many hours into something to feed somebody for an hour or for 30 minutes. You know, it's fun.
What kind of wood do you use?
So when I was in Santa Barbara, what was regional was red oak. What's regional up here and in abundance is apple. Mm-hmm. You can get into peach and cherry and all this other kind of stuff, but if you're running a restaurant, you need to be somewhat consistent. And so the biggest access I have is to applewood. And if you notice across the country, you know, they use post oak in this certain area, or they use hickory in this certain area. And why is that? It's because it's what's available within reach. And it's like, oh, you need to cook brisket with oak. I know that's how they do it there, but we don't have oak here.
Right.
There's oak in Oregon, but I just come from the idea of use what is within reach. And I feel that apple is a great hardwood, and it makes strong coals that burns really well. And so it might not have a strong like hickory flavor or anything like that either, but we're using some of the best beef we can find. And so I want the beef to be the star, I want that kiss to be there, but I don't want it to be like this heartburn smoke flavor that you can get sometimes.
Right.
And so, so it's applewood that I have access to, and I know it's always going to be there, versus like swaying left to cherry 1 week, swaying right to
you're looking for the consistency,
you know. And so, you know, it's just it's been helpful being within that region, and it's all coming out of Emmett basically.
Right. So Jocko's, what do you think of Jocko's?
Who's that again?
Jocko's in Napomo. Had you never been to Jocko's?
Oh, I never did make it there. I know of it though, but I didn't ever make it.
Yeah, definitely all red oak.
That was your favorite or what?
Say it again.
That was your favorite?
I mean, we weren't close to it, so we only, if we were traveling, my wife and I would take the kids up to Goleta and camped there at, I forget what it's called now, but it was this glamping spot next to the state campground.
Refugio, probably.
No, it was this private place that there was the state one. Maybe it was Refugio. No, it was a little more north. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we would stop in there on the way home or whatever. And when I was in high school and around that time, we went up there a few times. And my dad, I've got a really funny story about getting in a fight at this place, but I'll save that for another time. But it was, you're in the country. I mean, that's the country, right? And this place was 100 years old. In the 70s or the 80s, something like that, they had changed buildings because the building that they had been in for 100 years, like tipped over or something. And anyway, place was awesome. Food was delicious. I just figured it was a staple up in that area.
Well, what's interesting too about Santa Barbara, Santa Maria is it's all Santa Maria Grill, tri-tip. It's tri-tip country there. That's where it was developed out of.
Right.
And so for me to come in and do brisket in Santa Maria, that was unheard of. Yeah. People didn't even know what brisket was. 50% of the guests I served, they didn't know what brisket was. They all called it tri-tip, or they wanted it medium rare, or whatever. Well, this thing's been smoked for 12 hours. We ain't getting no medium rare. And so, and that's why I did brisket there, is because no one was doing it, and no one had the patience or the time to do that. And so it was just a lot of fun to be different up there by doing brisket. And I would do tri-tip for, special occasions for people. But now I come to Boise, Idaho, everybody knows what it is.
Right.
And you can tell people that moved here because they know what tri-tip is.
That's right.
Oh, you know what tri-tip is? You've moved here, fine. I think that whole drama story about people moving into neighborhoods or areas that aren't wanted, I found that to be a lot of flack. I couldn't have been more welcomed by all the natives that we've served of Idaho. I couldn't be more welcomed by everybody that's moved here. I kept Santa Barbara sticker on my van just to bring up the conversation because people feel welcome that way. And I got salt from two people that, were disappointed in me that I moved here from California. And, I found out that they went to high school in such and such Orange County when they were 20 years ago anyway. So, all of a sudden they forgot that they moved here as well. But, I feel like that got a lot of headline. It got a lot of clicks, but I don't think there was a lot of meat behind it because everybody, I mean, everybody but two, were more than welcoming and happy that we were here. And, and I couldn't have felt more, welcome to Boise and getting this going. And why not? We employ 30 people. I've got about 50 local businesses that we dump money at to, provide services from, a law firm, a bank, a CPA, the produce, the beef, the supply, the insurance, the plumber, the HVAC, the list just goes on and on and on about the refrigerator appliance repair, you name it. I mean, it's just interesting how many vendors it takes to run a restaurant that, I use within reach. The guy that printed this shirt, the guy that sold me this shirt. And so it's just really, really, really cool to see. And then they come and have our food. This is great. They're the one that fixed the plumbing, and then they get this, or the one that did the signs, or the one that does the banners, or the one that provides the shipping containers, or the ones that do the lawn, and that's just great. And, I love being able to go get a cup of coffee with my shirt on, and I tell them, like, hey, come get some brisket, and then they will, and that just pays for the cup of coffee that I just bought, by getting visitors in. And so, so it's just been a really warm reception. I hope to grow more. There's eyes on Meridian. There's eyes on Star. Maybe something in North Idaho too, but we're very, very slow to grow just because the money is slow to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have you in Eagle for sure. I'm sure you would do well here.
Yeah. There's a couple of little smaller neighborhood corner spots that I like. There's just nothing open. You know, our first store has a lot of charm. Downtown is very like food hall. There's a lot of personality there. And so I'd like to be able to find something again that can be outside of the box, you know, not just like a Target strip mall, you know, insert.
Yeah, of course.
But like I said, I'm 42. I got 20 more years. I'm on the gas. We're going to be downtown for 2 more years. So that's been agreed upon. And so, you know, it's nothing but growth, but I don't know if any more babies will happen. We're sitting at my 2 boys are 6 and 5. I have a girl that's 3, and I have another boy that's 10 months. And she said we're having with our 4th one. She said we're having another baby, and I said, oh, we're gonna have another store too. And we opened the store in July, and we had the baby in August, about 2 weeks later. And so that was just a really
not a lot of sleep for you.
Wonderful experience. But I've got my chef here knocking at the door. He needs to get started, and so.
Okay.
But unless you have something, I want to get him launched.
No, man, that's cool. I really appreciate you coming on and spending your time with me. I know you're a busy man. It was really cool that we had lived in the same place, and the food is delicious. Yeah. So I really just wanted to put you on here and talk to you a little bit and get to know you a little bit. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. We'll be by sometime for some more food soon.
All right, great. Thanks, Dan. It was great meeting you. Come by again, all right? All right. See you.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.